Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this session of textual study of the Quran. We have started off the second chapter of the Quran, which begins with Surah Anam, the surah that we started off last week. So this surah basically addresses the Quraysh and clarifies misconceptions which are found regarding the basic tenets of belief which relate to monotheism, prophethood, and the hereafter. And it's a very poignant sermon, I would say, that is given to the Quraysh, and it's in a very earnest way. All these misconceptions are removed, and the response, of course, shows that they were not budging, in spite of the fact that they clearly knew that they were at fault. And this will become evident also from the section of the verses that we will be studying today. So the words are قُلْ أَغَيْرَ اللَّهِ اتَّخَذُوا وَلِيًّا فَاطِرَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَهُوَ يُطْعِمُ وَلَا يُطْعَمُ قُلْ إِنِّي أُمِرْتُ أَنْ أَكُونَ أَوَّلَ مَنْ أَسْلَمَ وَلَا تَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ قُلْ إِنِّي أَخَافُ إِنْ عَصَيْتُ رَبِّي عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ مَنْ يُصْرَفْ عَنْهُ يَوْمَئِذٍ فَقَدْ رَحِمَهُ وَذَلِكَ الْفَوْزُ الْمُبِينُ. Say, should I make anyone else but God my guardian, who is the creator of the heavens and the earth, and gives nourishment to all and is nourished by none? Say, I have been directed to be the first to submit to him, and it has been emphasized you should never become among the polytheists. Say, if I disobey my Lord, I fear facing the torment of a fateful day. In reality, he who is spared that day from torment is the one God has shown mercy to, and this is open success. So the words that actually should catch our attention are the ones that say that the earth, who gives the nourishment to earth? It says that the Creator, it is He who gives nourishment to all, and He is the one who is nourished by none. Now, this is a necessary consequence of what is stated earlier in the surah, that as far as God is concerned, He was acknowledged by the idolaters as the supreme creator. And it's also a subtle and derisive comment on the stance of the idolaters. So, in other words, should the prophet leave the creator of the heavens and the earth and the sustainer of this whole universe and worship these deities of the idolaters? Deities who themselves owe their existence to these worshippers of theirs and are only happy if they present sweet and sugary edibles to them. And clearly, this is something that tells these idolaters how wrong they have gone. And also, what needs to be borne in mind is that the edibles that the idolaters presented to their deities would be regarded by them as their favorite food, which they would eat and whose aroma they would relish. So, on the contrary, whenever a person or whatever a person who only believes in God offers to God, returns it to his poor creatures, and none of it, as specified by the Quran, comes in the use of God. So that is why it is said that He gives nourishment to all and is not nourished by anyone. Because, of course, as clearly these idolaters thought that when they present food to them and then they eat, so this is something that was relished by them, and it was something that the aroma and the fragrance of the food also was something that was very liked by them. So the Quran has made it evident that how can the Prophet do that? And when it says "Wala takunanna minal mushrikeen," you should never become among the polytheists. So the thing is that if these people indulge in polytheism, then the responsibility actually rests on them. The Prophet has only been told to submit to God alone and associate none with Him. And the words "Wala takunanna minal mushrikeen," of course, which are mentioned here, they are meant to emphasize, and they are also there's also a comment on them, and it's meant for rebuke, and it is directed to the people whose attitude is under discussion. So it's not directed directly at the Prophet as people would think, because of the address. We have discussed this a number of times, that in many a verse, what the address actually tries to convey is an indirect slant to some other people. So it's by addressing the Prophet, some other groups are being told, and they are being told off actually. So وَلَا تَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, when it is said to the Prophet, there was no fear that the Prophet would become among the idolaters. It is just that they are being told, the idolaters themselves, that what a bad choice they have made, that even the Prophet has been told that he should not actually become part of them. قُلْ إِنِّي أَخَافُ إِنْ عَصَيْتُ رَبِّي عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ. So, of course, the day from the torment is the one God has shown mercy to, and this is open success, as the last verse says, "Man yusraf anhu yawma izin faqad rahima wa zalika al-fawzul mubin." In reality, he who is spared that day from torment is the one God has shown mercy to, and this is open success. There is a subtle insinuation in this statement that those who have forgotten the success will come to know of the extent of misfortune they had earned in the previous world for this day. So that is what is meant here. That this is open success is actually referring to the fact that the person who is spared from torment on that day is the one who has succeeded. And then it says, وَإِن يَمْسَسْكَ اللَّهُ بِضُرٍّ فَلَا كَاشِفَ لَهُ إِلَّا هُوَ وَإِن يَمْسَسْكَ بِخَيْرٍ فَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ وَهُوَ الْقَاهِرُ فَوْقَ عِبَادِهِ وَهُوَ الْحَكِيمُ الْعَلِيمُ. Rest assured, if God afflicts you with some sorrow, none except Him can take it away. And if He blesses you with some good fortune, then He has power over all things. Again, the reference is it's like a further explanation of what has just been said, that when everything is in the hands of God, why should anyone else be made the guardian or protector, and why should anyone else be supplicated to? Because it is He, if He wants, He can let loose a calamity on people to try and test them, and if it is He who can stop that calamity from happening. And when it is said wahuwa al-qahir, which means that He is dominant on his servants, on His people, it actually means that it is not possible that God let this world not fulfill its purpose. It is a requisite of His knowledge and wisdom that a day of judgment should be brought about in which good and evil are decided. So that is precisely what is meant, that He is wise and all-knowing. He is dominant on his servants, which means that He will not allow this world to go the way it is. It's not going to just go on and on like this. It's going to culminate in a very definite purpose, and that purpose is that people will be held accountable on the basis of their deeds one day. قل أي شيء أكبر شهادة قل الله شهيد بيني وبينكم وأوحي إلي هذا القرآن لأنذركم به ومن بلغ أئنكم لتشهدون أن مع الله آلهة أخرى قل لا أشهد قل إنما هو إله واحد وإنني بريء مما تشركون. Ask them, whose witness is the greatest? Say, God's. He is a witness between you and me. And this Qur'an has been revealed to me that I may warn you through it and those also whom it may reach. Do you bear witness to this, that there are some other deities besides God? Say, I cannot bear witness to this day. Say, He is but one God, and I certainly disown those who associate with Him. So clearly, as you can see, that this aspect of the Prophet repeatedly telling them that I have nothing to do with you, I have tried my best to explain these things to you. They are something that are found in your own nature. The people around you, the whole structure of this universe around you bears witness that there is one God. But you people you insist on following your own deities because you think that God is perhaps aloof from you. He will not reach out to you unless you reach out to Him, and that too through other deities. The important verse that is to be understood here is this part which says, وَأُوحِيَ إِلَيَّ هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ لِأُنذِرَكُمْ بِهِ, which means that this Quran has been revealed to me. This is what the Prophet is telling them, that this Quran has been revealed to me that I may warn you through it and those whom it may reach. So the basic vehicle of warning, the basic means of warning, as this verse says, is the Quran. And the Prophet has said that this is the word that has been revealed to me so that I can warn you. And then this book, wherever it reaches, it can follow this whole procedure and be a warner in itself. And this is precisely what has been said in Surah Furqan, where it is said, Tabarakallazi nazzala al-Furqana ala abdihi liyakuna lil alamina nazira, which means that blessed be He, Tabarakallazi nazzala al-Furqana ala abdihi, who has revealed al-Furqan to a servant so that it may warn the whole world. So al-Furqan is the Quran. It's the distinguisher between the good and evil. So the Quran is the real warner. It is evident that the Quran is the means of warning. I mean, we should not in any way use any other hadith or story or our own sermon to warn people the way the Quran wants to. So when the scholars of this ummah, they undertake the task of warning people, they should make the Quran the basis of this warning. And instead of making their own sermons and their own khutbahs and using them for this purpose, it is the Quran that should occupy the central position, because there is nothing greater than the Quran that can make people comprehend God and, of course, have a clear concept of the hereafter. So, the important thing is that when it is said that those who put themselves in loss do not believe in it, they actually tell that what the purpose of the Quran is. So, do you bear witness to this, that there are some other deities besides God? قل لا أشهد قل إنما إله واحد وإنني بريء مما تشركون. I cannot bear witness to this. Say, He is but one God, and I certainly disown those who associate with Him. الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يعرفونه كما يعرفون أبناءهم كما يعرفون أبناءهم الذين خسروا أنفسهم فهم لا يؤمنون ومن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا أو كذب بآياته إنه لا يفلح الظالمون. Those to whom we have given the book recognize this Quran the way they recognize their own sons. However, those who have put themselves in loss do not believe in it and insist on polytheism, even though who can be more unjust than the one who invents a falsehood about God or denies His revelations? Surely such unjust can never succeed. So clearly, viewers, as you must have noted earlier on as well, the Quran has alluded to this substance a number of times, and it says that the people of the book, they were waiting for a prophet of God. They were waiting for a final book of God. And it is something whose mention was found in their own scriptures. And precisely for this reason, in Surah Baqarah, they are being told that you were waiting for this book. Zalik al-Kitab. This is the book that is the book of God, about which you were in waiting. Now it has come to you. The Quran says, La takunu awwala kafirin bihi. Do not be the first people to deny it, because you were the first, you shall be the first to welcome it. But you ended up denying it. And such is your recognition of this book, as this verse says, Yarifunahu kama yarifuna abna'ahum, that this Quran they recognize the way they would recognize their own child, which means that there can be no mistake. It is unmistakably the same book which was to be sent down. So, earlier, the purpose of the Quran, we have just studied that earlier on, which says, Unzirakum bihi, that the purpose of the Quran was to warn mankind. It was referred to earlier. Now, in order to corroborate exactly this purpose of the Quran, the testimony of the righteous among the people of the book is cited. It is stated that only those who have deprived themselves from paying heed to the Quran, have chosen to incur loss. Otherwise, in the light of their own scriptures, the righteous among the people of the book, they recognize and acknowledge and welcome this book and the facts it presents, the very way an estranged father recognizes his long lost son and feels the scent of his presence. So the true and the righteous among the people of the book, they clearly recognize the book. They were waiting for it, and only those have put themselves in loss, the way this verse says, Allazina khasiru anfusahum, the ones who have refused to believe in it. Otherwise, there was nothing in any way that could be said has been amiss in this regard. So, وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنِ افْتَرَى عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا أَوْ كَذَّبَ بِآيَاتِهِ إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. And they insist on polytheism, even though who can be more unjust than the one who invents a falsehood about God or denies His revelations? Surely such unjust can never succeed. Again, this is a point that the Quran has made repeatedly, that the people who hear their denial is something which is deliberate. It is not out of confusion. It is not out of any lack of information. It is not because of any misconception. It is intentional, deliberate, and blatant denial. And that is what has made them worthy of the punishment that is, of course, going to be pronounced right at the end of this chapter in the 9th surah, which is Surah Tawbah. And then it is said, وَيَوْمَ نَحْشُرُهُمْ جَمِيعًا ثُمَّ نَقُولُ لِلَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا أَيْنَ شُرَكَاؤُكُمُ الَّذِي كُنْتُمْ تَزْعُمُونَ. For this reason, remember the day when we shall gather all of them. After that, we shall ask these idolaters, where are your idols? those whom you considered partners of God. So the words وَيَوْمَ نَحْشُرُهُمْ جَمِيعًا, the word jamia actually is like an emphasis. It says every one of them, and it embraces all the groups mentioned earlier, whether they are the ones who ascribe partners of God, or who deny the day of judgment, or who deny the revelations of God. So though all of these were idolaters, it is evident from the Quran that each had a different reason to some extent for their rejection. So some of them did not accept God the way he should be accepted. Some of them denied his attributes. Some of them thought that the necessary consequence of his attribute, which is the day of judgment, is not going to come. And if it's going to come, then the daughters of God, who are the angels, they will intercede for them before God and save them. And there were others who rejected the revelations of God. So the Quran says that all of these, all of them will be gathered, and then they'll be asked that where are the people that you associated with God? Do you find them anywhere here? I mean, this is something which is absolutely it should be a reality, that if God had intercessors, then they should not have waited at all to be not present there. I mean, this should be a fact that as soon as they would be in the presence of God, they should have had access to those deities. And as the very next words say, that this deception will end. So the words are Thumma lam takun fitnatuhum illa qalu wallahi rabbina ma kunna mushrikeen, which says, then their deception will end, but will say, by God, our Lord, we were never idolaters. We were never idolaters. Ma kunna wallahi rabbina ma kunna mushrikeen. Unzur kaifa kazabu ala anfusihim wa dhalla anhum ma kanu yaftarun. See how these wrongdoers have told a lie on themselves, and all what they had been fabricating has vanished away. So this expression, which says "Summa lam takun fitnatuhum," actually tells us that the deception that they had actually spun around them in the form of a web, it will just vanish on the day of judgment. And on the day of judgment, they will be faced with ignominy. They will be faced with shame. Not only that, but look at the words that they would say, "Wallahi Rabbina ma kunna mushrikeen," that by God, we were never idolaters. I mean, they would deny being idolaters in the previous world. Such will be their shame and even audacity, that they would not even admit that they were idolaters. Although, of course, we know how vehemently they worship other deities. But when they will be in the presence of God, these words are very important to note. It says, Wallahi Rabbina, by God, by our Lord, ma kunna mushrikeen, we were never idolaters. And the Quran has said that look how they actually disown their own deities, because the words are unzur kaifa kazabu ala anfusihim. Look how these wrongdoers have told a lie on themselves, which means something that they accepted in the previous world, that they worship other deities and they would like to be in their company on the day of judgment. When the day of judgment will actually arrive, they will disown them. They will say that we don't know you. In fact, we were monotheists. We never were idolaters. So this is what the ultimate level of Itmamul Hujjah is, that people would accept their faults not because of any coercion, not because of any compelling circumstances, but out of self-admission, because they would now see that what they had been doing was totally wrong. It is not that they were in any misconception. It was clearly something they had known all along, and it was purely arrogance and some other vested interest that did not allow them to do so. And of course, one of them was that they wanted to be on the religion of their forefathers, and they would always say that ma wajadna alayhi aba'ana, that we will worship what our forefathers would worship. And the Quran has said, even if your forefathers had not used their intellect, even then you will follow them. So, unzur kaifa kazabu ala anfusihim wa zalla anhum ma kanu yaftarun, and all what they had been fabricating. Now, this is something and even more sarcastic, that all that they had been fabricating has vanished. So, at other instances also in the Quran, it has been said that the idolaters will confess their polytheism. This confession actually is mentioned so blatantly here, and it is evident from this that because of anxiety, sometimes they will deny, and finally, at some stage, they will be compelled to accept their polytheism. So, You see, this is not a contradiction. That at some instances they said yes, they were polytheists, and other instances they would say well, they were never were. So it is like finding different excuses when you face God. On one occasion they would say they would admit their folly. On the other, on another occasion, as is the case at this instance, they will outrightly deny. They will say that we were never idolaters. We worship one God. So, when it is said that all that they had been fabricating has vanished away, again there is a subtle sarcasm that exists in these words, that these people kept on giving false testimony about God in the previous world, and here they are giving false testimony about themselves. So it's like kazabu ala anfusihim. Initially, in the previous world, they were denying and refuting God, and now they are refuting themselves by lying, by not admitting to what they actually thought they were doing. So this is a very, very, I would say, important area and stance of the Quran that has been mentioned, that these people who are now so vehemently opposing the Prophet, their fate has been, so to speak, picturized and portrayed before the eyes of the people, that look what's going to happen in future. Either they'll deny that they were ever polytheists, or they will admit to their polytheism, and in both cases, of course, they will of course be palpable for the offenses that they have committed. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَسْتَمِعُ إِلَيْكَ وَجَعَلْنَا عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ أَكِنَّةً أَنْ يَفْقَهُوهُ وَفِي آذَانِهِمْ وَقْرًا وَإِنْ يَرَوْا كُلَّ آيَةٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَا حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءُوكَ يُجَادِلُونَكَ يَقُولُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا أَسَاطِيرُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. There are those among them also who listen to you intently, but we have cast veils over their hearts in accordance with the law, with our law, so that they may not understand what they hear, and have made their ears deaf, so that they are not able to listen in spite of listening. Now, viewers, we have discussed this law a number of times in the Quran, and this is in accordance with the law of guidance which the Quran has mentioned, that people who become rebellious against the truth and who intentionally reject the truth, who do not value the guidance that they already have in their conscience and in their heart, God initially gives them some respite. He gives them time to think. He makes them realize that they're doing something wrong. And if they're not prepared to avail this opportunity of respite, then their heart and mind, their hearts and minds are sealed for any message of the truth to enter. So this is like a punishment. And this is actually something which people don't realize before their own death at times, because of their evil deeds and because of the fact that they might be succeeding all their lives. And as we know that nothing succeeds like success, so success stories at times don't make people realize their own follies, and they continue to think that they are on the right track. But the Quran has said no, this is something that they must realize, that even if they see signs of all kinds, as the Quran says, وَإِن يَرَوْا كُلَّ آيَةٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَا, that because these people have become deaf and dumb and blind because of denying the initial guidance that they have, so they will not believe whatever signs you show them. And it is not an exaggeration when this is stated. It is in fact an expression of reality, because the implication is that if they do not accept faith, it is not because any signs and miracles did not manifest themselves to them or before them. After all, what is this whole universe? We look at the people around us, we look at the vast expanse of heavenly body, the earth, the sun, the stars, the seas, the mountains, the clouds, the wind, all of them around us, the night and the day, the heavens and the earth. So the Quran has said on numerous occasions that aren't these signs of God? Aren't these miracles of God? What other miracle do you need? The whole universe is replete with such signs. And what is the cure of such people who have eyes but they cannot see, who have ears but they cannot hear, and who have intellect or who have sight but they don't have insight? And if some other miracles are shown to them, as is the case here, they will never ever accept them. They will make other excuses, as has been the case at other instances in the Quran. So, وَهُمْ يَنْهَوْنَ عَنْهُ وَيَنْأَوْنَ عَنْهُ. So before that it is said, when they come to you, يَقُولُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا أَسَاطِيرُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. These believers, when they come to you, they say that these are the tales of the ancients. So the Quran actually warns them by narrating to them the incidents of the Ad, the Samud, the people of Madian, the people of Saba, the people of Lot, the Pharaoh, and Moses and his nation, that they did not seek a lesson from them. So when these tales came to them, when these incidents were narrated before them, what did they say? Asatirul Awwaleen, that these are tales of the ancients. They have nothing to do with us. So instead of seeking a lesson from them, they should have become unnerved, and they should have said that these are not tales of the ancients, but these are realities. And so God has said only a person who has been afflicted by madness can say such words, because how can this happen, that things go on in their own past, something that they are witness to, their own forefathers know. So all these previous prophets of God, they came in the same area and locality where the Arabs were living, either in the northern part or in the southern part, and we know that their record has been saved up with them in the form of the sermons, in the form of various poetic compositions, and of course in the form of oral traditions. They knew that this destruction had taken place. They would pass by their trade routes as well. But when they were told that this happened because of a certain reason, and if they also follow the footsteps of their previous nations, their fate would not be any different. Instead of accepting this, what they would say is that these are tales of the ancients. So وَهُمْ يَنْهَوْنَ عَنْهُ وَيَنْأَوْنَ عَنْهُ, they also stop others from it and ignore it themselves as well, and in reality ruin none but their own selves. So again, we have to understand that what they are doing is that they are not only ignoring it themselves, they are committing a double wrongdoing, and that is they are stopping others as well from this. وَإِن يُهْلِكُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ. And the result is that in reality they ruin none but their own selves. But as the Quran says, they are not aware of it. وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ. وَلَوْ تَرَى إِذْ وُقِفُوا عَلَى النَّارِ فَقَالُوا يَا لَيْتَنَا نُرَدُّ وَلَا نُكَذِّبَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّنَا وَنَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. If you could see the time when they would be made to stand beside hell, then they will say, "Would that we were sent back, so that we can testify and not deny the revelations of our Lord and become believers." So you see, now that they are faced with this ordeal, that they will be facing the music, they will be facing the punishment that they dreaded, or they should have dreaded, it would be too late. So they would say that, please give us another chance, we will go back, and وَنَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, we'll become amongst the believers. So we have to understand that these are various stages of their denial or coming out of their denial, which have been mentioned in the Quran. And as a result, we find them expressing different points of view at different points of time. So at times they would say that we were never polytheists. At times they would say that yes, we are, and we are sorry about that. And at other times they would say that, please, Lord, give us another chance. We'd like to go back. And once again, if we are given this chance, then we will behave ourselves. So the Quran says, بَلْ بَدَى لَهُمْ مَا كَانُوا يُخْفُونَ مِنْ قَبْلِ وَلَوْ رُدُّوا لَعَادُوا لِمَا نُهُوا عَنْهُ وَإِنَّهُمْ لَكَاذِبُونَ. Certainly not. In fact, the reality which they had concealed before has manifested itself to them. If they are sent back, they will do the same which they had been forbidden, because they are absolute liars. So this is a comment of the Quran, and it is a very stern comment, that their denial is not a denial in which they are sincere. Even if they are given a chance, they are going to go back and do the same what they had done before. So again, the Prophet is being told, because remember, our Prophet was extremely merciful and he was someone who was very compassionate. So he is being told that if these people are asking for any concession from you, remember, this concession is something that they don't deserve, because on the day of judgment, when they will be asking for some respite or a second chance, and God says, if I give them this second chance, what do you think? They are going to mend their ways? No, that's not going to be the case. They are once again going to go back and exactly do the same thing. The same idolatry that they had indulged in earlier would be their religion. But the thing is that they have to understand that innahum lakazibun, that they are blatantly lying at this time. So don't in any way think that these people deserve any mercy, or they deserve any respite. So with this, we come to an end to today's passage. And before we start off with the literal and idiomatic translation, if you have questions on what we have just studied, you have the time to raise them.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saleem, and assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for your explanation, Dr. Saleem. I do not see any raised hands at this time. Still waiting
Mhm.
for hands to be raised. So I'll have a question for you. So, when you say that God is talking to the Prophet indirectly while addressing
Mm.
others present around him, is it like the way when um, when we want to kind of talk to people and kind of that
Mm.
word that we say sunana,
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
we put it like, say, if we want someone else to kind of reprimand someone else, we'll say something to our own, our child or our husband or our siblings or whoever we are close to, just to kind of make sure that the other people hear it. Is that
Yes,
something
is
that?
that is exactly the same thing. You see, this is
Oh,
a style that's not just peculiar to the Arabic language or a particular linguistic background or culture. It is something that all of us do. At times, you would not like to make that person directly alarmed. It's like a subtle insinuation, so that by not directly talking to that person, he or she is given the chance to reflect. Because if once you are direct, then the chance for that person remains at very little, because his ego or her ego would suddenly come or has a chance to come in his way. So the Quran has used all these, I would say, forms of communication, so that they are, I mean, they are given absolutely every respite, every form of respite, every chance in which they can reflect. So at times the conversation has been direct, but on many occasions it has been indirect, because on such occasions this indirect communication is much more powerful, it's much more impactful, and at the same time, of course, it's very subtle.
right. But Dr. Salim, isn't it hard to decipher? My question is, the people who first started kind of understanding the Quran,
Hmm.
how, when the Prophet is being addressed directly, how did they judge it that it's him who's not being addressed?
If you have a literary taste, I mean, you've just said that, for example, I tell my son that, well, are you going to live in the company of these bunch of scoundrels? Would you like to be with
Right,
them? So you see,
right.
I'm addressing my son, but I'm actually addressing those people, or his friends in whose bad company he has fallen in. I think this is just a question of appreciating the
Okay.
literary structure of every language, and this, I said, is not something that's just peculiar to the Arabic language. This is a style, linguistic style, which is found in
Right,
all languages.
right. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Salim. Shabana Ansari, please unmute your mic and ask your question. Thank you.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम। डॉक्टर
Walaikum.
साहब, इसमें यहाँ जो अल्लाह ताला फ्यूचर का नक्शा खींच रहे हैं, जिसमें वो कह रहे हैं कि एक सेकंड चांस दे दे हमको, ताकि हम दोबारा अपने आप को ठीक कर लें। तो जिस तरह हमको वादा अलस्त भुलाया है, तो इस तरह वो भी अल्लाह ताला उनको भुला देगा ना? ये तो इस वजह से वो जाके फिर वही करेंगे।
Of course, I mean, this is something which, I mean, you see, for them, the first promise that they made at the time of creation has no worth at all left with them. So this was a sign that they were given at their birth, and besides many other signs, like, for example, their own conscience, the people around them, the world around them. So they had indulged in a blatant denial of all these factors, and that is going to continue. So the Prophet is being assured that if you think that these people are sincere in their respite, that they be granted this respite, remember, they are not sincere at all, because they're going to repeat what they have done. So it's like the intensity of what they are up to is repeatedly conveyed to the Prophet, so that he knows that he's not falling short in his own endeavor. It's basically these people who are absolutely insincere.
Aziza, please unmute your mic and ask your question. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, sir.
Walaikum assalam.
Sir, in the previous ayat, there appears to be a focus on the crime of the defaulters, probably that it is about polytheism. But in the later part, when they said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they'll be standing on the edge of the hell, then the description is about the ayat of Allah. So that means polytheism or ayat may be considered all the other major sins also.
Let me see the verse. So you're talking about verse 27. It says, "Walau tara is wuqifu an-nar faqalu ya laytana nuraddu wala nukazzib," which means that when they will be made to stand beside hell, they would say that if we are sent back, we would, so that we can once again testify, and la nukazzib, and we do not deny the signs of God, and become believers. Are you referring to this verse?
Yes, sir, because it appears that the ayat, maybe in my opinion, or if I'm wrong, please correct me, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing all the other sins apart from polytheism. The ayat, or denying the ayat, probably encompasses all of them. But previously, only the crime of polytheism is being discussed.
So you see, this is a style of the Quran, because when it charge sheets someone, the main crime is mentioned, and then of course other crimes are like, I mean, they're appended to the main crime, because when it is said that if you give us the chance, we will go back and become mu'min, we'll become I mean, true believers. It is primarily telling us that what they are claiming is that they will not associate partners with God. So that is their primary contention. But obviously, related to this primary contention is all other factors as well, which in this case become like I mean, something which are appended to the main cause. So denying other signs obviously is included here, but because of the fact that the polytheism is being discussed here, and because they have said repeatedly that I mean, they've given different reasons for their polytheism. So the one they have presented here is that they'll become Muslims once again. So that is why it is being highlighted.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. I do not see any raised hands. Dr. Saleem, if you want to continue with the idiomatic
Okay.
problem. Thank you.
So I'm just going to start off the idiomatic and literal translation. So it says, "Qul aghayrallahi attakhizu." So Qul, say, aghayrallahi, should someone other than God, attakhizu, I hold, waliyan, as guardian, fatir samawat, who is the creator of the heavens, fatir, creator, as-samawat, heavens, wa, and al-ard, the earth, wa, and huwa, he, yut'im, he feeds, wa, and la, not, yut'am, fed. So, should I regard someone else to be the guardian of the heavens and the earth when the situation is that he feeds others and he is himself not fed? He nourishes others and he himself is not nourished. Qul, say, inni, I, umirtu, have been directed. Say, I have been directed, an, that, akuna, I be, awwala, the first, man, who, aslama, submit. So, the literally, say, I have been directed to be the first to submit. Wa, and, la, not. Takunanna, become among. Takunanna is become. Min, among. Al mushrikeen, the idolaters. So I have been directed to be the first among those who submit and to not be amongst the mushrikeen, not be amongst the idolaters. Kul, say, inni, I, akhafu, fear, in, if, asaitu, reaches me, Rabbi, my Lord, azaba, his azab, his punishment, yawmin, of the day, azim, of that great or fateful day. So what the Prophet is telling them is, say, I mean, this is what he's being told to say, tell them, that I fear that I will face the torment of a very painful day. This is what I fear if I disobey my Lord. Inni akhafu in asaitu. So asaitu actually is if I am disobedient. So tell them that I fear if I am disobedient to my Lord of a great torment. So asaitu, I just need to correct this translation, which I missed out earlier on. So asaitu basically means if I am disobedient, if I am defiant to my Lord. What am I defiant? Of course, regarding those directives. And what do I fear, which says inni akhafu? So it says inni akhafu Rabbi, that I fear my Lord. And what exactly do I fear from my Lord? Azaba yawmin azim, that I face the fateful torment of that day. Man, he who yusraf, has been spared, anho, from it. So it is referring to the punishment. So he who has been spared from it, yawma izin, on that day, faqad, then indeed, rahimahu, he has been shown mercy. Wa, and zalika, this, al fawz, fawz means success, al mubin, open. So in other words, what is being said here is that he who is kept away from this punishment on that day is the one who has been shown mercy to. فَقَدْ رَحِمَهُ وَذَلِكَ, and this al-fawz al-mubin is great success or is open success. Wa, and in, if, yamsaska, makes reach, Allah, God, bidhurrin, makes reach you, in fact, if God makes it reach you, what? Bidhurrin, of some affliction. Fala, therefore not. Kashifa, takes it away. Lahu, that. Illa, except He. So, which means im yamsaskallahu, if God inflicts you, yamsaska inflicts you, Allah, God, bizurrin, with some calamity, fala, then not, kashifa lahu, deliver it from it. So none except Him can deliver it. Illahu, except Him, none can deliver that calamity. So in other words, if God decides to afflict you with some calamity, then only He can ward it off. Only He can take it away. La kashifa lahu would mean only He can ward it off. Only He can stop it. So that is something that is conveyed by the stress. Illahu, except He. La kashifa lahu illahu, will not take it away except He. Wa, and in, if, yamsaska, reaches you, bi khairin, some good, fahuwa, then He, ala, on, kulle, every, shay'in, thing, qadir, powerful. And if some good reaches you, which means if some good fortune reaches you, which means if God makes some good fortune befall you, fahuwa ala kulli shay'in qadir, then He has power over all things. So it is He who is going to ward off any calamity that might reach you, and it is He who is going to send you any good fortune because He has power over everything. Wa, and huwa, He, al-qahir, qahir means powerful or dominant, fawqa, upon, ibadihi, His servants, and it is He who is dominant upon His servants. Wa, and huwa, He, al-hakim, wise, al-khabir, knowledgeable, and He is the wise and He is the knowledgeable. Qul, say, ayyu, what, shay'in, thing, akbaru, greater, shahadatan, as testimony. So qul ayyu shay'in akbaru shahadatan, say who is the greatest testimony, or what is the greatest testimony, or whose is the greatest testimony. Ayyu shay'in akbaru shahadatan, whose testimony is the greatest. Qul, tell them, answer them back, Allah, it is God's testimony which is the greatest. Shahidun, He is a witness. Baini, between me. Wa, and. Bainakum, and between you. So the question was, Ayyu shay'in akbaru shahadatan, that what is or whose is the greatest testimony? The answer was, it is God's who has the greatest testimony. Why? Because He is a witness between you, between me, between myself, baini wa bainakum, and between you. And then it is said, wa, and, uhiya, has been revealed, ilayya, towards me, haza, this, al-Qur'an, the Qur'an. And this Qur'an has been revealed to me, li'unzirakum, so that I can warn you, bihi, through it, wa, and, man, who, balag, it reaches, and it, so that I can warn you, whom, through it, and those also whom it reaches, they are be able to warn you, which means that the Quran is going to warn you. I'll use the Quran to warn you, and also the Quran is going to warn those who it reaches. Man balagh, whom it reaches. Innakum, is there you, la tashhaduna, which means do you bear testimony. Innakum, do you bear testimony, anna, that, ma'allah, ma, with Allah, God, aliha, gods, ukhra, others. So do you bear testimony that with God there are other gods, with God there are other deities? So ma, with, anna, that with God there are other deities. Kul, say, la, not, ashadu, bear witness. Say, I do not bear witness, I do not bear testimony. Qul, say, innama, indeed, huwa, He, ilahun, God, wahid, one. Say, He is but one God. Wa, and. Innani, indeed, I. Bari'un, I am acquitted. Mimma, from those. tushrikun, those you associate with him. So innani bariyun would mean that I acquit myself from those you associate with him, which means that I have no relationship with them. I disown them. Allazina atainahum, those who are given. Atainahum, who are given, and allazina, those. Al kitab, the book. Ya'rifunahu, they recognize it. They recognize it. Kama, the way. Ya'rifuna, they recognize. Abna'ahum, their own sons. So those who are given the book, they recognize it the way they recognize their own sons. Allazina, those who. Khasiru, what khasiru means to inflict loss. Anfusahum, upon their own selves. Fahum, so therefore they. La, not. Yu'minun, will believe. So this would mean that those who are given the book, they recognize the Quran the way they recognize their own sons. Allazina, however, those who have put themselves in loss, allazina khasiru anfusahum, fahum la yu'minun, they are the ones who are not going to believe in this book. Fahum, they are the ones la, not yu'minuna, in this book. So in other words, people who have decided to put themselves in khusran or in loss, they are the ones who are not going to believe in it. Wa, and man, who, azlamu, most unjust, min, from, mimman, from that person, iftara, concocts, Allah, upon, Allah, God, a lie, kaziba, a lie. So he who is more unjust than the person who fabricates a lie upon God, or kazzaba, kazzaba, denies, bi ayati, kazzaba base, denies ayati, his signs. So who is more unjust than the person who fabricates lies upon God or who denies his signs? Innahu, indeed he, la, not, yuflihu, achieve success, az-zalimun, the wrongdoers. So this would mean that the unjust or the wrongdoers will never succeed. Innahu la yuflihu zalimun. Wa, and Yauma, on that day, Nahshuruhum, we will gather them, Jamia, all. So remember the day when we will gather all of them. Summa, then, Naqulu, we will say, Lillazina ashraku, to those who had associated partners with God, to the idolaters. Lillazina ashraku, to those who had committed shirk, to those who were polytheists. And what do we say? Aina, where? Shurakaukum, your partners. Allazina, those who. Kuntum taz'amun, you considered. So where are the partners that you considered them to be partners of God? So this is like saying that when the day we will gather them, on the day, all of them, we will ask them that where are the deities that you worship beside me? Where are them who you considered as my partners? Summa, then, lam, not, takun, be, fitnatuhum, their deception. Summa lam takun fitnatuhum would means their deception will not remain, illa ankalu, except, illa, except, an, that, qalu, they will say. What will they say? Wallah. So wallah is like a oath, by God, by God, Rabbina, our Lord, by God, our Lord, ma, not, kunna, we were, mushrikeen, idolaters. So this is outright denial of their own idolatry. That by God, we were not even idolaters. So their fitna, their deception will end, and they will only say that by God our Lord, we were never idolaters. Unzur, look, kaifa, how, kazabu, deny, ala anfusihim, their own selves. Look how they deny their own selves. Wa, and zalla anhum means something that disappears from them. So look how they deny their own selves. Ma kanu yaftarun, what they had been fabricating. And look how what they had been fabricating has disappeared from them, which means that the very belief that they lived their life on would be disowned by them. Wa, and minhum, among them, man, who, yastami'u, listen intently, ilaika, towards you. So there are those among them who listen towards you intently. Wa, and ja'alna, we have made, ala, upon, qulubihim, their hearts. We have made upon their hearts akinna. So akinna means a veil. An yafqahuhu, so that yafqahu, they are not able to grasp it. So basically the structure is an la yafqahuhu, so they are not able to understand it. So what is said is that ja'alna ala qulubihim akinnatan, that we have cast veils or upon their hearts, so that they are not able to understand. An yafqahuhu, they are not able to understand. Wa, and fi, in azanihim, their ears. And their ears, waqra, is deafness. And in their ears there is deafness, which means that their ears have become deaf. Wa, and in, if, yarau, they see, kulla, every, aya, sign, la, not, yu'minu, they will profess faith, biha, in it. So if they see all kinds of signs, they will still not profess faith in them. Hatta, until, iza, when, ja'uka, they come to you, yujadilunaka, fighting with you. And so if they are seen, if they are given all kinds of signs, when they will come to argue with you, to fight with you, yaqulu allazina kafaru, say allazina kafaru, those who had disbelieved, in, not, haza, this, illa, except, asatir, tales, awwaleen, ancients. So what they are telling us is that if even they look at all kinds of signs, they are not going to believe in it. So much so, when they come to you disputing with you, these disbelievers, what will they say? In haza illa asatirul awwaleen, these are only tales of the ancients. Wa, and, hum, they, yanhauna, kept away, anho, from it, wa yanauna, and it will be kept away, anho, from him. And they will be kept away from it. So wahum yanhauna anhu would mean that they will be kept away from it. Wa yan'auna anhu would mean that they were the ones who actually were kept away. So wa in yuhlikuna illa anfusahum, wa, and, in, not, yuhlikuna, destroy, illa, except, anfusahum, themselves, and they do not destroy except their own selves. Wama yash'urun, wa, and, ma, not, yash'urun, they have any shaur, they have any cognizance. So wahum yanhauna anhu would mean they are the ones who stopped other people from it. Yanhauna, stopped, anhu, from it. What is that? Of course, they stopped people from the right way. وَيَنْأَوْنَ anhu, and they themselves ignored it also. They stopped other people from it, and they themselves also ignored it. And then what happened was that they did not destroy anyone except their own selves. Wa, and, law, if, tara, you see, is, when, wuqifu, they stand, alan nar, on the fire, which means besides the fire, of course. Faqalu, fa, therefore qalu, they will say, ya laytana, would that, nuraddu, we are sent back, would that we are sent back, wala nukazzib, so that we do not deny, bi ayati rabbina, the signs of our Lord, wa, and, nakuna, we become, minal mu'mineen, from among the believers. So they will stand beside the fire and they would say, would that we are sent back so that we do not deny the signs of our Lord. La nukazzib bi ayati rabbina wa nakuna minal mu'mineen, and we become amongst the believers. Bal, in fact, bada lahum, it will appear to them, ma kanu, what they were, yukhfuna, hiding, min qabl, earlier on. So bal is like saying, in fact, the thing that they have been hiding earlier on, which means bal bada lahum ma kanu, it will appear to them. Bada lahum, will appear to them, ma kanu, that was yukhfuna, hiding, they were hiding min qabl. So in other words, what is being said is that the reality that were hiding earlier on will become apparent to them. Bada lahum. So they were denying the hereafter, but now the hereafter has become evident to them. Bada lahum, become evident to them. Wa, and, law, if, ruddu, they are sent back, la'adu, they will again do the same, lima nuhu anhu, from what they had been stopped, lima, from what, nuhu, stopped, anhu, from it. So if they are sent back, they will again do what they had been stopped from. Wa and innahum, they are lakazibun, absolute liars. Indeed, they are absolute liars. So with this, we come to an end to the idiomatic and literal translation also. And in the meantime, if you have more questions have arisen in your mind, we can take those questions, or we can have some of our general questions as well.
Shabana Ansari, please unmute your mic and ask your question. Thank you.
डॉक्टर साहब, इसमें जो कहा है कि कुरान के बारे में कहा है कि ये कुरान को ऐसे पहचानते हैं जैसे अपने बेटों को पहचानते हैं। तो जैसे हम लोगों ने पढ़ा था तो हमें ये बताया जाता था कि नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम को ऐसे पहचानते हैं जैसे अपने बेटों की तरह। तो कुरान में कई जगहों पे ये जिक्र है कुरान ही के लिए या नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के बारे में भी आया है?
Yes,
और थोड़ा
correct.
सा एक्सप्लेन करें कि कुरान से किस तरह वो, मतलब थोड़ा सा मुझे नहीं समझ आ रहा कि कुरान को कैसे कह रहे हैं कि वो अपने बेटों की तरह पहचानते हैं। थोड़ा सा एक्सप्लेन कर दें प्लीज।
You see, the Quran and the Prophet, they are used interchangeably. They refer to the same reality because the Prophet is a prophet because of the Quran. So if you look at the context of various verses, you'll see basically that what the previous scriptures do predict is the arrival of the last prophet, and he will not come merely as a prophet. He'll bring with him the guidance that is going to lift them up, that is going to unshackle them with the fetters that they had put around their necks and their yokes by wrongly prohibiting certain things. So this is clearly mentioned in the previous scriptures that a messenger will come and he will bring final guidance with him. So that is why at some instance the messenger is referred to, and at other times the message that he'll bring with himself, which is the Quran, is referred to. So it's like the same thing. The only thing is the Prophet, of course, is not someone who's just going to come himself. He is going to come with the Quran. And both these realities I would have been mentioned in the previous scriptures.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Ruhi Rasool, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर।
वालेकुम सलाम।
सर ये जो है लाइन 23 है मेरे ख्याल में, उसमें है कि सुम्मा लम तकुन फितनतुहुम जी इन कालू वल्लाहु रब्बना मा कुन्ना मुशरिकीन। तो ये जो या माफिया मांगने लग जाएंगे और कहेंगे, अल्लाह की कसम उठा के कहेंगे कि हम तो मुशरिकीन में नहीं थे, इनसे क्या सलूक किया जाएगा? क्या उनको उनसे कोई नरमी की जाएगी?
Certainly not. You see, these people are not, presenting any excuse because they thought that they are justified in saying. They are just trying to change their stance by at times admitting to polytheism, at times lying. That is why the Quran has said in the next verse that they are lying. Bal kazabu ala anfusihim. Whatever they are saying, they are disowning what they said in their previous life. So this is not something that they are trying to justify themselves with. Of course, they are trying to do that, but the Quran is not accepting this justification. What the Quran is telling them that they are just lying. They are fabricating a lie. So they'll be dealt in the same way as the rest of them are.
ये जो आगे आता है उन्जुर कैफा
Yes.
कज़्ज़बू
Kazabu
अला
ala anfusihim.
अनफुसिहिम।
They have lied on their own selves. When they say that we were not mushrikeen, they are lying, because what else were they? They vehemently accepted, proclaimed, and advocated polytheism. So this is like just a lame excuse that they would be presenting on that day, which will not be accepted.
यानी इनको सजा मिलेगी।
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Shabnam, you're up next.
थैंक यू बिस्मा। सर छोटी छोटी सी एक दो वर्ड्स के मीनिंग्स हैं, मैं फॉलो यूली उर्दू में करती हूँ ट्रांसलेशन। तो सर आयत नंबर 25 में फी आज़ानिहिम वक़रा, तो सर मे बी के वो शायद मैं सही नहीं समझ सकी, वक़रा इज इन माय अंडरस्टैंडिंग बोझ, आपने इसका किया देयर इयर्स आर डेफ।
Correct.
तो
this is like a idiom which when says that wakara uzunuhum, it means that they are hard on hearing.
राइट सर। सर असल में आप वर्ड टू वर्ड कर रहे थे तो मैं कंफ्यूज हो गई। शायद सर इससे अगली आयत में यनहाउना व यनआउना, सर ये यनआउन जी सॉरी। तो सर वो आपने इसका पैसिव मुझे लगा वॉइस में क्या है, वैसे जो मेरे पास ट्रांसलेशन है वो उसमें एक्टिव है कि वो रोकते हैं और इससे यनआउना दूर रहते हैं। तो सर ये आप बताएंगे प्लीज काइंडली.
That is correct. Wahum, you see, yanhauna means to stop. It's the
हाँ
same as nahi and mulkar. If you heard the word nahi and mulkar, the same nahi is expressed here
सर.
in the plural form yanhauna. So yanhauna means they stop. Anho, from it. They stop
राइट
people from it. Wa
राइट सर.
and yanauna, they also ignore it. Na'an would
इग्नोर.
mean that to be indifferent to
They will
something. So
stay
they
away.
stop other
They
people
stay
and
away.
they are
And
indifferent to it.
right, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Riyaz Saab, please ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sir.
Wa alaikum salam.
We use in the, I think it is in the 20 ayah, it's saying Ilahum Wahid, but sometimes we use the, Kul Huwallahu Wahad. Is it meaning the same? Wahid and Ahad is one?
No,
Or is
Wahid and Ahad are different. You see, Wahid in someone is someone who in whose being there can be no other partner, and Ahad is someone in whose attributes there can be no other partner. So Wahid is used for being and Ahad for attributes.
so it means one and the only one? So
Yes, one and the only one whose attributes no one other has. No other person has his attributes. He is one, and whatever attributes he has is owned by no other person.
no, okay, thank you, sir.
Dr. Saleem, I have a chat question. In my translation, the verse 25 is translated as, "Of them there are some who pretend that they listen to you, but their prejudice have dulled their faculties, and we have cast girls over their hearts." What does
Correct.
prejudice have dulled their faculties mean?
Because you see, what has happened is that apparently the first sentence, which says وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَسْتَمِعُ إِلَيْكَ, it is there are some who listen intently to you. It's like a false thing that is being done on their selves, as if they are trying to say, oh, okay, what is he saying? So it's like an insinuation which is being made to them that they intently listen to you, but they gain nothing out of you because they have been rendered incapacitated from receiving any guidance because of their own going away from guidance that was found in their own hearts. So they are trying to be guided, but the fact is that God has put a veil on their hearts, and of course their own ears cannot in any way receive any guidance. So they try to listen to it, but they come to nothing.
Okay, right, Dr. Saleem. So I do not have any more raised hands at this time. Can I move to general questions?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I have one chat question that says, Allah protects all his messengers, then why was Prophet Yahya killed by King Herod? This question is out of topic, but since you're doing tafsir of Surah Maryam, okay, go ahead.
So remember, protection of the prophets of God is meant to the extent that unless they deliver their message, no harm comes to them, and that is also regarding God's messengers. Because regarding the prophets of God, I mean, because of the fact that they are not exactly secure from any such calamity. So we find Prophet John being assassinated by Herod, and there were other Prophet Zachariah also. He was also assassinated in a similar way. So amongst the messengers, the prophets of God, they are not protected in this way. But even the messengers of God, potentially they can be killed. But this will only happen once they have done their duty, which means that they have delivered the truth to the ultimate extent.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. So we have around about 20-25 minutes left. If anybody has any general questions, please, this is the time to raise your hands and ask those questions. Let me know. Okay, Ruhi Rasool, go ahead.
जी सर ये जो एक आयत है 19 उसमें है कुल अय्यु शैई अकबर शहादतन कुलिल्लाह। सर इसमें शहादत किस चीज की चाहिए और क्यों चाहिए? शहीदुन बैनी व बैनकुम
The testimony is that who is the greatest testimony that God exists, that God is one. That is what is meant here.
God is one. ठीक.
Correct.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sir, I have a chat question. It says, what surah should be recited on the Ashura?
I mean, there's nothing related in the Quran which people think makes Ashura a very blessed day. The thing that we come to know about Ashura, of course, has nothing to do with the incident of Karbala or whatever happened on that day. It is much, I mean, it is many centuries earlier on. It was a day that was celebrated by the Jews because they had been liberated from the shackles of slavery of the Pharaoh. So they would celebrate that day, the 10th of Muharram, because it was on this day they were able to come out of the slavery of the Pharaoh. And so when the Prophet came to Medina and he asked people that why are the Jews fasting, they said that Moses fasting was, I mean, he decreed this fast because people had come out of the slavery of the Pharaoh. So the Prophet said that I'm more closer to Moses in doing this, so I'll also do it. Not only this, but if I given the chance, if I'm alive the next year, I'll fast on the 9th of Muharram as well. So basically, it's the fasting aspect that is that has this blessings of the Prophet, of course, and God, and it has nothing to do with anything else. And that too, because of the fact that this has a very special occasion, and often people don't relate to its proper origin, and they think that at times maybe because this is of the incident of the Karbala that happened. That of course is a very unfortunate incident, but it has nothing to do with any such observance. I mean, the fast that is kept is not because of that incident. It was kept much earlier by prophets of God for the reason that I've just stated.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Naushad Shafkat Saab, please ask your question.
Yes, Dr. Saab, just a little background I need about the 17th rakat in the Isha namaz. I believe it was the 6th that the Prophet always offered. And how did the 17 come about? Because that is quite tedious.
So, I mean, this is something that the Hanafites have come up with. You'll not find this by other jurists like the Shafi'ites, the Hanbalites, the Malikites. You'll not find this amongst them. This is basically a formula which the Hanafites have come up with. And as far as I remember, I'm not absolutely sure about it, but I can double check that basically they added the remaining rakat other than the 6. One of them, of course, was the witr. So witr was something that the Prophet allowed for people to say before they went to bed, and they were not being able to get up at the tahajjud time. So they relegated that. I mean, they back to the Isha time, which of course meant that they had added 3 more to 6, which makes it 9. And then the remaining 8 were actually basically rakats that were distributed from the tahajjud prayer actually that the Prophet used to offer. So if I remember correctly, it was basically the various rakats of the tahajjud prayer that were appended to various other prayers so that the count of that prayer becomes complete. And people who are not able to get up in that time of morning, they are able to make it up during the day by appending parts of it to various prayers. This is what I'm not absolutely sure about it, as I said. This is what I remember reading very earlier on.
So no sin if one just offers 6.
Of course. I mean, even 4 is sufficient. You see, the thing is that for what you're liable is the first prayer.
Thank you.
So I have a chat question. Only farz is obligated to do in namaz, right? Rest is okay. So it's extra reward for the rest.
Correct.
Okay. So I have a question, Dr. Saleem. The Quran is, as you had mentioned once, and even if I'm correct, Ghamidi Saab mentioned that for a general person, just reading the Quran on their own is sufficient. But my question is, when we learn it or understand it through a teacher, the higher understanding of it, does that open certain pathways in our brain, or does it, because I think sometimes if you understand it correctly, there are subtle nuances that I think only when you go through somebody who has understood it properly, that's the only way a pupil will understand those. Is that correct understanding, or is it? What is your
So you
thought
see,
on it?
there are various levels of understanding the Book of God. The most initial or the basic level is the one that you get when you read it yourself, because it's in plain, simple Arabic, and you get a basic message out of it. But the more you go deeper into it, the more you are able to discuss it with a scholar, maybe read a tafsir, the more, nuanced will that understanding become. Otherwise, this is like a multi-level understanding of the same text. So the initial level is the one that is required, that it has to be achieved by every believer, because that's how we'll gain access to God's guidance. And the next step is, the more you go into it, the more you look deeper into it, you'll get more jewels and gems from it.
Right. So basically, that concept of when you, I don't know, I also feel that when you learn it through or understand it through a teacher, sometimes I think a certain calmness comes into character which may not have existed before. Um, is it possible
I
that
would
it
say this
opens?
is psychological. I mean, there are people who just
Okay.
have the same calmness when they read it themselves, and others
Okay.
who have reassurance from people who are like their guides and their teachers, or others who read tafsir. So this is basically, and different people having different approaches.
Okay, got it. And what does, when you refer to the qalb being open, or, to the understanding, why the qalb? Isn't qalb the heart?
So
Wouldn't the
no, so
brain
you
be
see,
something?
according to the Quran, this qalb is not just merely a piece of meat that circulates blood. It's also the center of the soul. So it's like the center of your inner personality. You can say that the mind is something that controls your physical self, and the heart is something that is related to your spiritual self. So
Right.
the soul, or your spiritual self, is sort of concentrated in the heart. That is how the Quran uses it. It does not use it as a medical term, or something which has a medical or a connotation in the terms of the science of medicine.
So qalb would be different from the heart.
Yes, heart is intellect, and qalb is basically awareness of good and evil.
Okay, got it. Okay, I have a chat question, Dr. Salim. Sometimes Ghamidi Sahib in his talks alludes to the Bible and the Torah. Which book in your collection or Ghamidi Sahib's collection that has specific references? Thanks.
I've already said that the best way to read the Bible is to go to a website called BibleGateway.com. This is all one word, and then search for the NIV, which is the New International Version, NIV. And under that NIV, you'll find the Old Testament, you'll find the New Testament, all the books, and that is the latest edition of the Bible. So that is what I recommend, the NIV Bible.
Okay, then I have a chat question. Is the Day of Judgment going to be on the 10th of Muharram?
We don't know about that. In fact, what we know from certain other narratives is that it would be on a Friday. So we don't have any news whether it will be 10th of Muharram or not. I don't think this is very authentic.
Okay, then I have another question. I would like to know why this difference between prophets and messengers by Allah. Both are chosen by Allah, so both should be treated equally by Allah. Please clarify.
That is what God has said, that we should not make any distinction between His prophets, because all of them have brought guidance. In fact, the Almighty has said on numerous occasions that the believers should profess faith in the statement, La nufarriqu baina ahadim min rasulihi, that we do not distinguish between any of His messengers. We don't regard them to be absolutely superior, or one of them to be absolutely superior to the other. Everyone has relative superiority, and everyone has his own importance. But as far as the status is concerned, the Quran says you cannot distinguish between them. They have the same status.
Okay. Bhatti Saab, please unmute your mic and ask a question. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum, sir. Sir,
Right.
my question is what is the difference between qalb and fuad? Because in Quran,
Qalb and Fuad are the same. They are the same.
They
They are the
both
same. Fuad means heart, and Qalb also means heart.
and they both mean faculties too, because Allah refers them as faculties.
As I said, Qalb refers to, it's the term that is used by the Quran in this sense is as if the center of our inner personality, something that relates to our soul. So the center of our soul, which is the seat of good and evil, is concentrated to the heart. It's like I just gave this example that the intellect or the mind is something that controls your physical self, or it is something that is in charge of your physical self. So, on the contrary, because we also have a soul, so for the soul, the center of the soul is like the heart, which has this awareness of good and evil and morality in it.
Thank you, sir. Jazakallah.
So basically, Dr. Saleem, I'm just going to ask you this question again. So basically, when we refer to something as a heart of something, that is the qalb then, the understanding part of it, not the
I mean,
literal.
that is, I mean, when you say at the heart of something, that's a metaphorical use of something in the English language. That's another thing.
Right.
When the Quran uses the word heart, it uses it as if it is the center of your soul, something which through which you can understand your soul, something which is the central pivot of your soul. And what is your soul basically? Your soul is an entity which gives you this divine spark. And what is that divine spark? It's basically the awareness of good and evil, your inner self. So it's like saying that we have a physical self and we have a spiritual self. The physical self is our body, and the spiritual self is our soul. So the controlling point of our physical self is our mind, and the controlling point of our soul is our heart.
Oh, okay. So fuad is the same thing then. It's not the physical.
It's the same thing. Fuad
Not the
is the
physical
same
heart.
thing. Yeah. I mean, the Quran does not use it in the medical sense. It uses it at the center of the soul, or the qalb.
Okay. Dr. Saleem, I do not have any more questions at this. Okay, Shabnam, go ahead.
हाँ जी, थैंक यू सर। मैं काफी देर से इसी पे सोच रही थी। सर, कुरान ने बार बार इंटेलेक्ट को इनवाइट किया है, अकल से काम नहीं लेते, गौर फिक्र नहीं करते। तो हार्ट, तो सर फिर वो हम ये भी कहते हैं कि ये जो माइंड या इंटेलेक्ट है वो हमारे फिजिकल सेल्फ को कंट्रोल करती है। तो सर फिर इसको कैसे हम समझें?
I mean, it's very simple. You see, intellect is your akal, is something through which you understand. Qalb is not something through which you understand. Qalb is something which is the center of your soul, and your soul is an entity which is aware of good and evil by birth. It does not require any external agency to educate it. It has this knowledge of good and evil by birth, whereas intellect is something which processes the data that you obtain from your faculties.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
So, Dr. Saleem, there are no more raised hands, so I'm just going to ask you this myself. So, when we die, does the qalb still exist because the soul still exists?
No. The soul is the entity which just goes away from your body. The soul became vibrant for you because it was given in your body and it had a point of contact with your body, which was your heart. So your soul connected to your physical self through that. Once that goes away, the heart no longer functions. The soul, which was connecting your spiritual self to your physical self, is now disconnected. So it's now a separate entity. It's taken away by the angels and deposited in the land of barzakh.
So basically, the qalb also stops existing when we die.
Yes.
So that means the soul is still there, but the qalb and the
qalb
body.
Qalb was the point through which that spiritual self got it connected to the physical self. So when the physical self went away, it's like the connection totally got itself severed.
So that's the is that just trying to understand. I'm sorry, I keep asking you this, but is that the point which the qalb remembers ehde alast? Is that what we're supposed to, and that's why the soul is able to connect?
So no, that is another thing. That is your intuition. So you see, these inner aspects of our personality, they are given names by our own self. So our own inner self, or our own intuition, which is, it's like saying that it is one part of your soul. Somewhere in your soul is your intuition as well, and in that intuition are all these all these realities that are found in us by birth.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Saleem. So the same person who asked the question about the prophets, I think they need a clarification. I would like to know why this difference between prophets and messengers. Okay, they've already asked this, but the continuation at the bottom says, my question was regarding Allah protecting his messengers but not his prophets.
So I answered that he protects his messengers as long as they have not delivered his message completely. And that is what is meant by the Quran. It says that the protection is that they will never falter in delivering my message. And during that delivery, they will be protected. So basically, the protection is the protection of the message. Because the messengers, they are the receptacles of that message. They carry that message. So until that message remains with them, they cannot be harmed potentially. But once that message has come out of them and has been delivered to people and it has done its job, then technically, although a messenger never got killed ever in history, but technically this can happen.
Okay. I have another question, Dr. Saleem. In the case of a bypass, is the soul connected to the body of a person?
No. You see, we are confusing the biological, I would say, use of the heart with its use with the soul. That has two entirely different connotations. You see, our biological existence owes itself to the heart also because it pumps its blood. It has the whole body going with the circulation of the blood. So that is a function of the heart that relates to our physical self. The Quran tells us that the same heart is also the center of our soul. I mean, that functional biological piece of meat, the way it is functioning for the body to maintain it, in a similar way, the heart is also the center of the soul. So it's like a double function that it performs.
Okay. Umar, please go ahead, ask your question.
थैंक यू जी सर। मैं बिस्मा साहिबा ने कुछ देर पहले एक सवाल किया था कुरान मजीद के बारे में। तो ये मैं एक फ्री थिंकर भी बहुत अरसा रहा हूँ, रिलीजियस भी पहले बहुत था। मैं पिछले दिनों 2-3 महीनों से कुरान मजीद की अरबिक पढ़ रहा हूँ अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह। सर उनका जो सवाल था उसी को मैं आगे कंटिन्यू करते हुए पूछना चाह रहा था कि सर मैंने तो सारी जिंदगी 37 साल उम्र है, जो भी कुछ किया है वो उसके करीब भी नहीं आ सकता जो 2-3 महीने मैंने जो कुरान मजीद थोड़ा बहुत समझ के उसकी अरबिक पढ़ के समझने की कोशिश की है। तो सर ये क्या जो हम जब दीन को समझना चाहते हैं कोई भी मुसलमान, उसके लिए क्या फिर सर लाजमी नहीं है कि वो अगर सीरियस होके कर रहा है तो वो लाजमी कुरान मजीद की अरबिक कम से कम बेसिक लेवल पे तो समझ।
So you see, the basic message of the Quran is available through any translation. Even if you don't know Arabic, and if you read the translation very carefully, you will get what God wants from you. But that is the first step. If you want to have an impact of that guidance, if you could like to have the original impact of that guidance, of course, the next step would be to directly appreciate it. But that cannot be regarded as a condition or something that is an obligation. Because for salvation or success in the hereafter, we can understand the Quran through a translation, and it clearly would guide us that what are the elements that would salvage us in the hereafter. But if you read the Quran directly, the impact is that you feel like following what you have read, because now it's like God talking to you directly. So yes, there are a number of I would say pros if you read the Quran directly, but we just cannot say that it's like a mandatory thing on every person. The mandatory part is that you must understand the Quran, and that understanding can be obtained through a reliable translation.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. I do not have any more raised hands at this time. I do have a chat question. Was the Prophet's uncle Muslim?
Was the Prophet?
Prophet's uncle.
I don't know. This is a dispute, or this is a I would say argument or a disputed subject that has been a subject of debate, I would say, but only God knows.
Okay. Shabnam, please go ahead, ask a question.
जी बिस्मा, थैंक यू सर। अक्सर मैंने मतलब ये अल-मौरिद के स्कॉलर से सुना है कि हमें जब किसी को इनवाइट करना है किसी नॉन मुस्लिम को, तो हमारी जिम्मेदारी सिर्फ ये है कि हम उसे कुरान दे दें। तो सर मुझे लगता है कि शायद मैं थोड़ी इसमें अंडरस्टैंडिंग में मेरी शायद सही नहीं है, क्योंकि सर फर्स्ट रीडिंग में या सेकंड रीडिंग में भी अगर कोई बॉदर करे तो विदाउट हैविंग प्रॉपर एक्सप्लेनेशन तो वो इफेक्ट तो नहीं आता। आई थिंक कि वो हम फिर कोई ना कोई तफसीर होती है जिसमें डिफरेंसेस आ जाते हैं। तो सर आई थिंक कि फिर ये हमें खुद पहले साथ में इतनी अंडरस्टैंडिंग होनी चाहिए कि अगर वो हमसे सवाल करे तो हम उसको रिप्लाई कर सकें।
I think the better approach is that you before you hand him over the Quran, you hand him over a short booklet which introduces the Quran to them. So it's like a short introduction to the Quran, and maybe the next step is that you give a book that is like anthology of Quranic verses, a selection of the Quranic verses, and then in the third step you can give the whole Quran.
Sir, is it available as these small books?
Yes,
by
we
press?
have these. We have a basic introduction to the Quran. It's called the title is the Quran, something like the Quran for Beginners. It's a small booklet, and then we have another book that is called Selections from the Quran. So this is like
Right,
a
sir.
short anthology,
Right,
and
sir.
then of course the whole translation.
Thank you so much, sir. That's very valuable.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saleem. So we have no more chat questions and no more raised hands. So I think we can end the session. Inshallah,
Okay.
we'll see everybody on next Saturday and Sunday. Have a wonderful week. Thank you so much, Dr. Saleem, for your wisdom and for your understanding.